If Donald Trump's administration has been about two things, it is breaking promises and finding ways to distract us all from the fact that he is breaking those promises. And of course, one of the things that Donald Trump pledged during his campaign is that he would be pro-peace, that he was this anti-war president, and that's why his generals didn't like him. Not because he was often quoting Hitler or praising his generals, but no, it's because he's so pro-peace, which he immediately gave up on the first day of his presidency when he decided we were going to war with Canada and invading the Panama Canal. But now he has found another reason, an invasion, or I guess buying, of Gaza. And it is a ridiculous notion that Donald Trump would suggest, so much so that Lindsey Graham publicly called him out for it. And we are going to get into that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into what Lindsey had to say, I want to hear a little bit of a response to Trump's plan from Senator Chris Murphy, who had this to say right here.
The president says he wants Gaza and he wants to make it beautiful. What is the impact of this intention?
Well, the impact is to try to distract Americans from the real story. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are trying to seize control of the government so that they can punish their enemies, and reward their friends, try to squash dissent, and gobble up a bunch of money to be able to pass along another massive tax cut for their billionaire and corporate friends. We're not going to invade and occupy Gaza. We're not going to invade Greenland. We're not taking back the Panama Canal. But Donald Trump is really good at this campaign of distraction. You saw the American people start to rise up over the weekend when they heard that Elon Musk was inside Treasury stealing their data. And Donald Trump doesn't want you or anybody else to talk about that today. He wants to change the conversation. And how does he do that? By making a ridiculous promise that the United States is going to invade, occupy, clear out, and rebuild Gaza, something that not a single Middle East leader will support, something Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't support, something that would lead to decades of war in the Middle East and thousands of Americans being killed. He's not going to do it, but he knows that he can turn the conversation to something that's better for him than the billionaire power grab inside our government that's happening right now.
Clearly, this is a distraction from Donald Trump. He is just trying to come up with ways to get the media to focus on anything but the dangerous destruction of our government that's coming out of DOJ. We saw a 30-year civil servant and director of the Social Security Agency resign today because they refused to give Elon Musk access to just Social Security at large. For Elon to go in and tear things apart with his Doge bags, his little lackeys. By the way, that is what we are calling them. I guess we can call Elon one as well, but all of his little engineer guys, we're calling them Doge bags. I think that's the best title for him. But this is what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants to shift attention with these ridiculous ideas, these culture wars. And before we get into what Lindsey had to say, first, of course, we need to hear Trump's genius plan, which even baffled the reporters that were with him.
Committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices. But we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back. There's nothing to move back into. The place is a demolition site. It'll be, the remainder will be demolished. Everything's demolished. I mean, you can't live in those buildings right now. They're very unsafe. But we'll make it into a very good site for future development.
He just sounds so stupid. And it's especially upsetting. Well, it's upsetting for a lot of reasons, but because so many young guys in my generation, part of their reasoning, their flawed reasoning for voting for Trump, a lot of what I heard was, well, he's this anti-establishment figure who's against war and all this, entrenched military-industrial complex that's in Washington. Although Trump won't let Elon go after or audit or get rid of the corruption in the defense budget. He's anti-war, and he wants to attack Canada and Mexico and Panama and invade Gaza. But no, still anti-war. It's just ridiculous, so much so that even Lindsey Graham was willing to call it out. Graham's remarks come as President Trump has doubled down on his controversial plan for the United States to take over the war-torn Gaza and push nearly 2 million Palestinians in the region to resettle elsewhere. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job, whether we'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, Trump said in a nonsense statement at a press conference. Create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different, Trump said.
One thing I will say, there's very little appetite that I've seen in the United States Senate for America to take over Gaza any way, shape, or form. I think that would be a difficult sell in South Carolina.
So, you know, when Donald Trump's most subservient little lapdog in Lindsey Graham is disagreeing with him, things have gone pretty awry. Things are not heading in the right direction. And again, a ridiculous notion from Donald Trump, and so counter to this narrative that he has tried to push. And it's funny, MAGA is revolting against this. It is, of all of the promises made, promises broken I've seen from Trump, it's actually kind of shocking that this is the one that MAGA's really latched onto. Like I said, a lot of young guys in Gen Z surprised that this is what Trump is saying. Why should they be? Did you read Project 2025? Did you listen to anything we had to say? No, apparently not. But we have to continue to drive home this point of a literal bait and switch by Trump, and it's what Hakeem Jeffries did right here.
I rise today to address the Republican bait and switch that has been taking place throughout the 119th Congress. The Republican bait and switch has three elements. Part one, talk about lowering the high cost of living, but do nothing about it. Part two, enact massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations that will do nothing to improve the quality of life of everyday Americans. Part three, stick working class Americans with the bill for those massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations by destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid as we know it. House Democrats want nothing to do with the Republican bait and switch, and we will do everything possible to stop it. The cost of living in the United States of America is far too high. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Insurance costs are too high. Utility costs are too high. Child care costs are too high. America is too expensive. It is not acceptable in the wealthiest country in the history of the world that far too many everyday Americans are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. It's time for us to do something about the high cost of living and to build an affordable economy for hard-working American taxpayers. House Democrats, hear you, we see you, we feel you when it comes to the pain being experienced by the American people, and we are determined to do something to make life better for you. But the Republican bait and switch has a very different plan. Last year, all we heard from my Republican colleagues was the need to do something about the high cost of living, while at the same time, they ran away from Project 2025 as if it didn't exist. This year, Republicans have spent all of their time implementing the most extreme parts of Project 2025 and have done nothing to lower the high cost of living. Not a single thing, not a single bill, not a single idea, not a single proposal from my House Republican colleagues to do anything about the high cost of living in the United States of America. Why? It's a Republican bait and switch. Part two of the Republican bait and switch is that their true objective is to enact massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations, just like they did in 2017, when the GOP tax scam was passed, where they set in motion legislation where 83% of the benefits would go to the wealthiest 1%. And now my House Republicans, our colleagues, are back at it. There they go again. Same plan. Nothing to drive down the high cost of living. Everything is about massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations, who in many cases aren't even asking for it. And they certainly don't need the relief that everyday Americans need, that working class Americans need, that middle class Americans need, that all those people who aspire to be part of the middle class need. It's a Republican bait and switch. What's the final element of the Republican bait and switch? Enact these massive tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations and stick working class Americans with the bill. The nerve of this group of people who spent all last year lecturing the country about how they were going to do something to drive down the high cost of living, do nothing about it, are planning to enact massive tax cuts for their billionaire buddies, and then, as the final element of the Republican bait and switch, stick working class Americans with the bill.
This is what it is all about. It is about fake narrative that Donald Trump can easily disseminate on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of which he has in his back pocket, and of course, through his media apparatus with Fox, with the biggest podcasts in the world, Joe Rogan, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. They want to push a false narrative and then pull the rug out from under you, which is what Donald Trump did with his stupid meme coin as well. But this is the plan, and we have to call it out. We have to point out the betrayal of Donald Trump to his MAGA fans and be very specific in telling those stories every single day. And it's what we're going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.